The year is 1963. Birmingham. Police dogs attack black children, and fire hoses blast protesters off their feet. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. sits in a jail cell, imprisoned by racist white cops who would rather see him rot and die than have a black man drinking from the same water fountain. Black-owned businesses burn through the night, while law enforcement watches from the shadows when they're not lighting the matches themselves. The white power structure has unlimited resources, while freedom fighters scrape together pennies. But then, one black man in an expensive suit walks into the Birmingham police station carrying a briefcase. His name is A.G. Gaston, and he's about to become every white supremacist's worst nightmare. He doesn't just bring hope, he brings millions of dollars, an economic empire, and the power to bankroll an entire revolution. The man calmly places $5,000 on the desk and demands Martin Luther King's freedom. Those white bigots thought they could break Dr. King and the movement into submission. They were about to learn what happens when black excellence fights back with unlimited resources. This is the story they never wanted you to hear. White-robed terror groups bombed his businesses. Masked vigilantes firebombed his house. They kidnapped him at gunpoint when he was 84 years old. But they couldn't stop his money from funding freedom. Here's what your history books won't tell you. A.G. Gaston proved something that terrified the white power structure. That black excellence could flourish and fund its own liberation, no matter how much violence they unleashed. Arthur George Gaston was born on July 4th, 1892, Independence Day, to a family that had never known true independence. The grandson of slaves, raised in poverty, but already showing signs of the financial genius that would one day terrorize white racists. At 18, Arthur enlisted in World War I, fighting in France for a country that treated him as subhuman. But he wasn't just serving his country. He was studying how power really worked, how money moved, how systems operated, how white men built empires. When he returned to Alabama, Arthur went to work in the coal mines for starvation wages. The white mine owners counted their fortunes while black workers risked their lives for pennies. But Arthur wasn't planning to stay buried in those mines forever. He was watching every transaction, learning every angle, and planning something that would shake the foundations of Southern racism. Arthur had realized something revolutionary. If he could build his own economic empire, serving the black community that white businesses rejected, he could accumulate the kind of wealth that buys freedom. Not just his freedom, everyone's freedom. Down in those dark tunnels, Arthur G. Gaston was preparing to become the civil rights movement's secret weapon. He just didn't know it yet. By the way, if you want to hear about more badass figures like Arthur, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Let's spread these sort of stories together, gang. Now, back to the video. Deep in those coal mines, Arthur Gaston's entrepreneurial genius revealed itself. He started making sandwiches at home and selling them during breaks. Simple concept: identify what people need, provide it, profit. Arthur watched black widows trudging from mine to mine, church to church, begging for donations to bury husbands killed in industrial accidents. These women had nothing, and communities struggled to help them maintain dignity in death. Arthur had a revolutionary thought. People could contribute small amounts regularly to a burial society, guaranteeing their families proper burials before a tragedy struck. In 1923, Arthur founded the Booker T. Washington Burial Society. Members paid 25 cents weekly, securing dignified burials with full respect when death came. By 1932, Arthur had expanded his burial society into the Booker T. Washington Insurance Company. Comprehensive life insurance, health coverage, accident protection, everything white companies denied black families. The numbers were staggering. By 1941, Arthur was insuring over 33,000 black Alabamians, collecting $155,000 in annual premiums. Millions in today's money flowing through a black-owned business in the segregated South. In 1939, Arthur established the Booker T. Washington Business College. His growing empire needed skilled workers, and he would train them himself since white schools wouldn't. Then in 1957, Arthur made his most audacious move. He founded Citizens Federal Savings and Loan Association, the first black-owned bank in Birmingham in over 40 years. Black families could now secure loans for homes, education, and business ventures, without begging white bankers who slammed doors in their faces. Arthur had constructed an entire parallel economy where black excellence could flourish. He also owned radio stations, WENN and WAGG, amplifying black voices when white media ignored their existence. By the late 1950s, Arthur G. Gaston had become Alabama's largest employer of African Americans and one of the wealthiest black men in America. But his most historically significant business was yet to come. In 1954, the year the Supreme Court decided Brown v. Board of Education, Arthur opened the A.G. Gaston Motel. Black families traveling through the Jim Crow South faced constant degradation. Most establishments either refused service entirely or subjected customers to humiliating treatment. Arthur's motel shattered that paradigm. The A.G. Gaston Motel featured 32 air-conditioned rooms with vibrant orange doors and turquoise balcony rails. The design rivaled the finest Holiday Inn properties, but welcomed black travelers with dignity and respect. The motel earned listing in the Negro Motorist Green Book, the essential travel guide helping black families locate safe accommodations nationwide. Black travelers across America knew they could find respect in Birmingham. The restaurant and lounge hosted legendary performers like Stevie Wonder and Little Richard, providing entertainment when white venues banned black artists and audiences. And then 1963 arrived, launching the motel's most crucial historical role. Room 30 earned the nickname the War Room. Here, Dr. Martin King Jr., Reverend Ralph Abernathy, and Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth planned the Birmingham campaign. Arthur offered civil rights leaders discounted rates, essentially subsidizing the revolution with his profits. But what happened next would prove just how dangerous the white power structure considered A.G. Gaston. Few people know about the money that made the civil rights movement possible. Much of that funding flowed directly from A.G. Gaston's personal fortune. In the 1950s, when authoring Lucy's Sue to integrate the University of Alabama, Arthur funded that legal battle. When Tuskegee residents faced foreclosure for boycotting white businesses after being denied voting rights, Arthur kept them in their homes. But the most famous example occurred in April 1963. Dr. King and Ralph Abernathy sat in Birmingham jail following their arrest during protest. Bail was set at $5,000, roughly $50,000 today. Without that money, the movement's leaders remained imprisoned. Arthur Gaston walked into that police station carrying a briefcase filled with cash and posted their bail immediately. No questions asked, no publicity sought. He opened his wallet and freed the civil rights movement's leadership. Arthur understood that movements require money to survive. Protesters need food, lawyers demand payment, bail must be posted, meeting spaces require rent. His checkbook kept the movement operational. Arthur knew revolution needs allies in every arena. His money and connections were essential weapons in the fight for freedom. The white terror groups knew exactly who was funding the civil rights movement, and they decided to send A.G. Gaston a deadly message. On May 11th, 1963, the Klan executed their plan. They planted a bomb at the A.G. Gaston Motel, targeting the exact wing where Dr. King and Ralph Abernathy had been staying. The explosion tore a door-sized hole in the building's west side, directly below Room 30, the war room where civil rights strategies were conceived. 3 months later, on September 8, 1963, they targeted him personally. The day after Arthur and his wife attended a White House state dinner with President John F. Kennedy, unknown attackers firebombed his residence. But the terrorists weren't finished. On January 24, 1976, when Arthur was 84 years old, an intruder invaded his home, kidnapped him and his wife, brutalized them both, and drove Arthur away in his own vehicle. Police discovered him 2 hours later, bound in the back seat. 84 years old, and white terror groups still attempted to intimidate him into submission. Arthur lived another 20 years, continued expanding his business empire, and died at 103 as one of America's wealthiest men. White terror organizations threw everything at this man: bombs, arson, kidnapping, death threats, and he outlived them all. By A.G. Gaston's death in 1996, his net worth exceeded $130 million. In today's currency, that represents hundreds of millions of dollars. He had constructed an empire spanning insurance companies, banks, funeral homes, construction firms, radio stations, motels, and cemeteries. Arthur graphed something that terrified white extremists. Segregation could become opportunity. He constructed superior businesses serving black customers with respect and dignity. The irony is actually wild. Racists created segregation to suppress black people, but Arthur weaponized that system to build wealth and power that funded their own downfall. He employed thousands of black workers, served black customers with dignity, and created opportunities for black professionals when white institutions rejected them. Arthur G. Gaston proved that black excellence requires only determination, strategy, and courage to bet on yourself when the entire world bets against you. But here's the revealing truth. Arthur's story barely appears in school curricula. Most history textbooks ignore him. His name doesn't surface in civil rights movement discussions, despite his money enabling much of it, because his story threatens the system's foundation. He showed that when black people control resources, we fund our own liberation. Arthur weaponized capitalism to fund liberation, turning racist systems against themselves. Without his money, countless civil rights victories might never have occurred. With determination, strategy, and community support, black people overcome any obstacle, even bombs, terrorism, and systematic oppression. And if you want to hear about another black hero who's been hidden from us, check out Charles Caldwell, the GOAT who beat Southern racists and showed America what it meant to be black and proud. This was Black Stories Untold, and as always, thanks for watching.